Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. And today, man, we are going to be hot and heavy, no holds bar. I got the Mr. Outspoken Burt Grossman on the line. Burt, talk to me, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in California. I'm not back in Jersey. I ain't got to deal with the weather, so I'm doing well.
Good. So listen, we're gonna jump right into what's going on. But before we get into what's going on, we got to do some house cleaning. And you know what I mean by that. So I guess about a year ago, right? You interviewed Charles Smith on your show, and you wanted me to see the clip. So I shared the clip with some of my friends, and man, everybody wanted to come at you with a pitchfork. So first of all, I didn't know you lived in Lothrop, because I lived in Lothrop, and I think you were asking Charles if he lived in Lothrop, and I think he responded yes, and then you said that was the colored dorm. And that was the whole phrase that got everybody worked out of kilter. And I was like, oh shit, I've got to talk to Burt because that's not cool.
Yeah.
You know. So.
And I mean, in context, look, I mean, going back, obviously would have said it different and going back. But in context, we were talking about what Pittsburgh was like 30 years ago.
Yes.
And the truth was, you know, if you were white, you hung out at white bars and white places. If you were black, you hung out black. We're all together, you know, hanging out. They practiced and everything else, but no one really mixed up at night.
Very true.
You know, it was segregated. I thought. I mean, you went to Zelda's.
No. I went to Nat's in the strip.
Yeah,
district.
you went to Nat. We went to Zelda's or Peter's Pub.
Yeah.
But you rarely. I mean, I never saw Tony Woods out. I never saw you out. I never saw Randy Dixon out. Brick, Quinn.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see anybody out, and that was kind of my point. And that's just the way. I mean, that's the way it was. I mean, obviously now 30 years later, I'm not 21. It wouldn't be that way. But yeah, obviously that was the wrong term to use. But I mean, it wasn't. Believe me, I wasn't slighting anybody, and that's not me. But I mean, at the time, I must have failed at it, obviously. But we were just I was trying to create. You know, Charles that man's a genius. He wasn't trying to create nothing. He was just going along. Absolutely. Trying to create what it was like then. And we didn't know it at the time, but that's what it was like.
No, Burt. I get you, but I think that we were looking for more correct usage. So if we were
no, absolutely. I take full responsibility. You're absolutely right there.
Yeah. So if we were 30s, 40s, 50s, colored might have been fine, but because we were 1987, what would have been more acceptable would have been black dorm, or more appropriate would have been African American,
or a Five Panther Soul.
Oh, come on now. Five Panther Soul. There you go.
I'm going to go way back.
Oh my God. So if you had to say it was a Five Panther Soul dorm, then we're okay.
Appropriate, yeah, because it was.
Absolutely. Then you would have been most appropriate, Five Panther Soul. That's all right. But listen, Burt,
But it wasn't. I mean, you know. I mean, if you were, me or Steve Apke or Tom Ricketts or Gerald Safsky, you couldn't go up to the Hill District.
No. But before we get into that part, I just wanted to share this with you because you brought something to my mind. I was also thinking how we were segregated during practice. Remember? So sometimes when we had practice, we would listen to Whammo before we went to practice, and we would listen to a white station when we came back, and then vice versa, because that's just how segregated we were. But somehow we made it work collectively as a team, right?
Or if you went into the little, when we walked in the stadium, you went as it is now, but at certain times it'd be BET on the TV, and certain times it was MTV.
Yeah, but we made it work at that time. So I certainly do understand. So. Okay. So now we've got the house cleaning out of the way. How have you been, brother?
I've been well.
Good.
But but going back to the house cleaning, I'm glad it came up because, and the point was, we look back and if we would have said back in '85 we were segregated, everybody would laugh. But in hindsight, we were. Yeah, but again, and that was the crazy part to me.
We didn't know what we didn't know, right? We knew that there were hints of racism, but I think, and man, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. But I think you're right. But I think to a certain degree, we were comfortable with that because we knew what we knew, but we also knew not to challenge certain things, so we just didn't press it.
And also, what really dawned on me, and I love Pittsburgh, and I grew up in Philly, and Pittsburgh and Philly were pretty much brother and sister. I mean, they acted the same way, the cities.
Yes.
I went to Montgomery for the blue-gray, all-star game my senior year, which was like '88.
Yes.
And I found Pittsburgh more racist in the '80s than Montgomery, Alabama, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. Well, because so now check this out. I may be wrong for saying this, but based on the topography of Pittsburgh, it was easy to be segregated because you had so many hills and valleys. You could put the Irish over here. You could put the Polish over here. You could put the Jewish people over here. You could put the blacks over here. And because of how it was built up, you just didn't interfere. And all those neighborhoods had their own distinct main street. They had its own restaurant. It had its own group of churches. So you just didn't venture out of your area. And so you are absolutely right. You are absolutely
that was
right.
And that's the crazy part. You get those East Coast cities, they're neighborhood cities. But I came out to San Diego, and there are no neighborhoods out here, so nothing's really it's segregated by money out here. That's how they segregate, like everywhere else. But there was no Italian section, there was no Polish section, there was no African American section, there was no Jewish section. It was just like every East Coast city has those from Chicago on over. But you came out to California, and it just wasn't that way. It just went by money. They didn't care if you were purple.
Got you. So as they say in church, hearts and minds are clear with that. We got that out of the way, Burt?
Yeah, that was all on me. That wasn't on anybody else. They were warranted on that one. That was all on me. Okay. And I hope I corrected it. It was just, but yeah.
No, you did. I think that you did, and if not, then they've got to fight us both now. So here you are at Pitt. What were the other schools that recruited you?
I was actually I was a top D lineman coming out of high school that year, so I was pretty kind of anywhere. But it was weird back then again with no internet and different travel. Everything was regional. So what we saw on TV is what we wanted to go to. So you remember back then there was no ACC, so we would play. People didn't realize back then, whoever we played on our schedule would win the national championship, whether it was Miami, West Virginia, Penn State, Syracuse, Boston College. They were all top teams then who we were playing. And that's really what you go to. I mean, I went and visited Georgia as one of my visits. So, I went around different places. But that's the other thing. I mean, without the internet and we had TV, I remember going to an all-star game again, and somebody was there from San Diego State, and I had never heard of San Diego State in my life. Didn't even know it existed. I was so dumb I asked them where San Diego State was.
Wow.
But we had never, I never really, I mean, did you ever see Oregon play when you were in high school?
Never.
Or Arizona State or Arizona. I mean, any of these schools, New Mexico, any of these schools we never really saw. So, I mean, everybody knew the SEC schools because the SEC is the SEC, but it wasn't, It was Notre Dame, Pitt, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, you really went to those schools unless you, ventured down south. But it wasn't even like that then because, half our team was from Florida.
Yeah.
So Florida was coming up to Pitt.
Yeah.
They weren't going down to Florida at the time. So I visited, like I said, I visited Georgia. I visited Ohio State, Pitt. I actually committed to West Virginia.
Okay.
Again, no internet, no nothing. Didn't know anything from anything.
Yeah.
Man, I visited West Virginia in January, and that was the end of that. That was a decommitment real quick.
Wow.
But people, again, don't realize. I remember going on this is how old we are. I remember going on my recruiting trip and smoking cigarettes and drinking Rolling Rock on the airplane flying into West Virginia.
Oh, but what? Oh, my God.
Cigarettes when I was still at Pitt.
Wow. I didn't know. I had virgin lungs, man, at that time. I was drinking.
Oh, no, not me.
Yeah, I was doing the Cuddy Sark, Cuddy 12. That was my thing. I was into liquor. I was
Iron City Light with a shot of tequila and cigarettes.
Now I'm a big time tequila drinker now, but back then it was all brown liquor for me, man. Wow.
That trash tequila I drank from the bottom shelf, that dollar shot. I don't even know if that was tequila.
But what was your real reason for going to Pitt besides not having the internet though?
You know what? Pitt was the last minute thing for me.
Was it?
Pitt wasn't even on my top five, and Joe Moore. You remember Joe Moore?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Joe Moore ended up showing up at my high school. Came to my house, got drunk with my dad. I just really connected with him for some reason.
Because of the drinking?
And the smoking. You remember he wouldn't put a cigarette down.
Absolutely. Yeah, all the time, man. One was constantly lit all the time. Wow. Okay.
And that's when you know it's embarrassing. You imagine dudes today, and I'm having a cigarette. Getting recruited in my living room.
You couldn't do that.
I mean, yeah, and I he convinced me to go there, to visit.
Yes.
I loved the visit. It was a big snowstorm. Got in a fight at a frat party, I remember. You know how bad it was? I went there, and it was the second night.
Okay.
And Tom Ricketts, you remember Tom Ricketts?
I remember Tom Ricketts, yes.
He was my host. He takes me to a frat party, and then I look around, and there's like 7 dudes about to beat my ass.
Because you said you were from Philly?
I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, like frat dudes. I was talking to one of their girlfriends or something, and then they wanted to beat my ass, and I was like, I pretended like I had to throw up, and I went to the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
And I said, I'll be right back, and I'm going to kick ass. I climbed out the window, fell in a snowdrift, and had to walk all the way down the hill.
Wow.
In a snowstorm.
Wow.
So basically, I ran away. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And what did Ricketts say to you next day?
I ain't saying. I'm still committed. For me, it's really. Looking back on, I grew up in Philadelphia, and you go to Georgia, you go. It's out in the middle of nowhere, man. It's a different culture. It's just you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Pitt was really the only relevant city school at the time. Temple I could have went to, but I wanted to leave home, and Temple wasn't what Pitt was at the time.
Absolutely.
People don't realize when we came in, Pitt was a top 3 team every year.
Absolutely. And I remember when Pitt used to play Temple, sometimes the starters would not even dress. That's how bad Temple was. Yeah,
and that's how good Pitt was. People for that 5-year period, Pitt was Ohio State or the Alabama of today.
Absolutely.
So, to have that and to be in the city, that was the draw for me. I guess mostly the city. Right? I like South Terry. He was there at the time.
Yeah.
For me, it was weird because it was a bad decision for me to go there. There was no internet. We didn't do what dudes do now, like actually do our homework. You really couldn't because there's nowhere to do your homework.
Exactly.
So they ran like a 50 front, and I was a small D end. And I went there that first year, and they're running like a 50, and I'm having to line up, head up on a tackle, and just not physically able to do it.
Yes.
And I basically would have been done, but they all got fired. After my freshman year.
Yep.
Mike Godfrey comes in. He brings in John Fox, who put in a 40.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I was allowed to line up on air, and that changed
everything for you.
It also helped that I had Tony Woods on the other side, taking all the double teams, but still.
Yeah.
You walk in and you have a dude like that on the other side, and you're a sophomore and you're starting.
Yes.
A true sophomore. I started my first game as a freshman against Purdue, and then got mono and then lost a bunch of weight. But I mean, just there was guys, that D line was just so stacked during the 80s back then. It was just,
absolutely.
I mean, it was amazing, the guys we had.
Yeah. And you know, what was interesting for me was when I was going to Pitt, or when I was at Pitt, they always talked about Hugh Green, but they also talked about another brother that was better than him, which was Dog Woods.
Yeah, and Ricky Jackson.
And Ricky Jackson. You know, so like, wow, you know, but Dog, you heard of Ricky Jackson because he went pro, but it was the Dog Woods who you didn't hear about because I think he injured his neck or something like that. But
man, there was so many Pitt dudes that come through Pitt that were the best. Like you remember Chucky Williams?
Absolutely. I think he's a pastor now.
Yeah, now Chucky wouldn't have blown his knee out back in those days. Yeah. I mean, that dude was a monster.
Absolutely.
I mean, Charles Glavin's another one that is underrated there. Brian Davis, the running back. I mean, so many just, you know, as a college back then, you fall through the cracks. There's no transfer portals, nothing. You don't get out of the cracks.
Yeah, you don't. So you do your time at Pitt, and at what point, your junior or senior year, do you pick up an agent?
No, that's the other funny thing. You're gonna bring that up now. that was the time when the Norby Walters, remember the Gotti Gambino crime family was back in. Yeah, that was the biggest thing because you know Tony Woods. Yeah. Tony had to end up. Tony one day shows up with a brand new Mercedes with Oregon plates on them. So, I mean, that turned into like a big. I mean, we all got at that point, that was my sophomore year when that happened. But I didn't really start to get money from agents probably till like junior year.
Okay.
And, but I really didn't go with an agent then. You know, it was weird. I was really good sophomore year. Junior year had a little down year. And then senior year going into it, you know, I was still like a top 4D lineman in the country, you know, projected.
Yeah.
Got hurt the third game and missed pretty much the whole season except the last game. And then, so I had to play in full, I'm going to say, just to make that up.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I didn't really have the film. I mean, I had the first 2 or 3 games we blew people out, so we were out at halftime. And then, you know, I got hurt, and then I played the last game Penn State, which was fine, but I just didn't have the film, so I literally had to play in 3 or 4 All-Star games.
Wow.
And then I sent it up from there, and then, you know, ended up being the number 1 D lineman, but it wasn't set in stone by any means.
And at no point in that process did you have an agent. You just did this yourself.
I did, yeah. I did have an agent for the draft. I mean, basically just to do my rookie contract.
Okay.
And then once my rookie contract was done, no, I did my second contract. But I wouldn't recommend that. There's just too much going on. It's, you know, you get a personal relationship with a GM employee. It's just a weird dynamic. You don't say the things you should say that a third party can say. It just wasn't a good thing. I mean, unless you're Tom Brady, of course, but I wasn't.
But think about this. Just like you was talking about, you know, not having enough film, not having internet. I mean, they're giving rookies so much money now. You can't even handle the contracts yourself. You need to have a third party. You need to have an attorney. You need to have an agent to help you facilitate that, right?
Oh yeah, the amount of money now is just. I mean, I see, you know, backups getting more per year than I made in my career. It wasn't.
Wow.
You know, people don't realize I was the 8th pick in the draft, and my rookie contract, I made $250,000 my first year, and that's what people made. Everything was slotted, you know.
Stop. You were
that was my salary.
You were 8th in the draft. And your salary was only $250.
$250 in 1989, yeah, and that is slotted. The dude ahead of me probably made $260.
Wow.
I mean, now don't get me wrong. You got a signing bonus.
Yeah.
And then, but my second year was only like $350.
Wow.
It wasn't. Yeah, you didn't make. There was no free agency then. There was no. You held out for the rest of your life. You weren't going anywhere. It was take it or leave it. There was no free agency. There was no union at the time.
True.
We didn't have a union at that time.
True. Wow. But you still were making probably 15% more than the average man at that time, right?
Yeah, but this is the other thing people don't realize. So say the dude ahead of me was Tim Worley. He was a running back out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Tim Worley gets drafted by the Steelers, all right?
Yes.
I get drafted by the Chargers. I remember I lived in Philly and I lived in Pittsburgh, and I remember, what houses cost. So I came out here and I'm like, they asked me, what do you want to pay for a house? And I try to go like big time because, in Pittsburgh, it'd be like, you could get a stone house on 10 acres out in like, at Mount Lebanon for like $200,000. Yeah. It was tricked out.
Yeah.
$200,000, and they laughed at me. You could not buy everything here. I ended up buying my house here, a 3-bedroom, not on the beach, not there for like $800,000.
What?
On top of 10% state tax, and on top of, people forget back then, mortgage rates were at 11%.
Wow. Wow.
And taxes 36. So 250 was. I mean, 250 in California is like making 500 in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, that's the discrepancy other people didn't get, but you weren't saving much. You weren't saving much money off 250 in San Diego.
Got you. Wow. So what was that like for you, man, during that time going pro? Were you mentally ready? I know you were physically ready, but were you mentally ready for that run?
It was, that was another weird part, because I remember, I held out the whole camp.
Yeah.
And when I was holding out, I went to see Cleveland, and Cleveland was when they had Bernie Kosar, dog pound, and I went to their training camp, and they had probably 10,000 people there. They had, merchandise stands. It looked like it was going off, because, Cleveland.
Yes.
Man, I ended up signing here. First day of practice was the last day before the opener.
Wow.
And there was 3 people at practice.
What?
And at the time, you were either a bust or you were playing. You didn't get any in between. So I signed like 2 days before the season opener, and we were playing the Raiders up in the Coliseum in LA.
Wow.
And I had 2 days of practice. That was it. After I sat out the whole summer, my first pro game, and it was like, man, it was 90 degrees.
Yeah, you sweating your ass off.
And it was in the Coliseum, and the smog. If you ain't ever been in smog and played in smog, the smog was hidden. And then that wasn't even the worst part. It was like, then I look in the backfield, and I'm like expecting some Rutgers shit, and it's Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen. I'm like, at halftime, I kid you not, at halftime I was going to quit and give them the fucking money back and go home. I mean, that's how bad it in the beginning, and it took me. It probably took me like 6 weeks just to get comfortable, and that was probably the training camp part, because I didn't have training camp. But after that, it was fine. I mean, I ended up with 10 or 11 sacks my rookie year. Started it, and it was just they just threw you in the fire back then.
Now let me ask this question, Burt. So, how many years did you play with the Chargers?
I played 5 for the Chargers, and I got traded to the Eagles my 6th year.
Okay.
And I only had a 1-year deal with the Eagles, so when I was done, I wanted to go back to California, and San Francisco was really good then. So I signed as a free agent with San Francisco going into my 7th year.
Okay.
And then I hurt my neck in training camp and basically couldn't play anymore. It was either get surgery, and at the point it was, if you have, you're pretty much done. If you had neck surgery in the 90s, you were really done.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a 7th-year D lineman, you're sitting out your 7th year, you're going into your 8th year coming off neck surgery.
Yeah.
You're done either way.
Okay.
So it was just because of the injury it was and the timing, I was done.
Okay. So in, let's say, your 5 years, who was your most competitive team you had to play in those 5 years?
We weren't competitive. We sucked.
Okay.
No, I take that back. We were good my 4th year. I think we went 12-4. We beat Kansas City here, and then we went to Miami to play and right to go to the divisional championship. We lost.
Yeah.
And then the year I got traded, they ended up going to Super Bowl.
Okay.
For us, it wasn't competitive or anything else. I mean, the Broncos ran the division then because they had Elway.
Yes.
But what was competitive for us, or the rivalry, was always the Raiders, because the Raiders run California over the 49ers at the time, over us. It was. I mean, people forget we even had the Rams in Anaheim then. There was 4 teams in California. We were just like Tijuana's team, but everybody in San Diego was either a Chargers fan or a Raiders fan.
Yeah.
And so Raiders were always a rivalry. We didn't usually win, but they were our rivalry.
Got you. So okay, so really wasn't that competitive. Okay, who was the toughest running back you had to take on at that time?
Who? You know what? I mean, there was so many. Ironhead was doing. I mean, Ironhead was only, I want to say, a year in front of me, so we would have to play him. And Christian Okoye was big. I mean, Herschel Walker was playing then.
Wow. Yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Sanders was a different back.
Yes.
Metcalf was a different back. But, I mean, the one thing they had then was, how physical it was. I mean, you practiced, 3 times a day in camp, all full go.
Yes.
Monday through Thursday was all full go. I mean, you remember, it was just, you look back on it, and you're like, so I had to, I mean, you practice against Ironhead full go, like every day. It's like, how do you, it naturally, shortens your career. I mean, you're playing games every day almost. Yeah. But, honest to God, it was probably Marcus Allen. I mean, Marcus Allen was, he would come off the corner and chip you. He'd come out of the back and, like a receiver. He could run. I mean, Bo Jackson was great, but he wouldn't come and light you up on a block like Marcus Allen would.
Okay. Now, speaking of getting lit up, did you ever get banged up where you had to do like the modern day concussion protocol?
Man, there was no concussion. Man, no, you know what the word concussion meant. I never heard the word concussion. I mean, I heard the word, but I never heard it used in football until 10 years ago.
Got you. Now, are you a part of that now? Do you have to go and check in once a year because of the NFL law or the Players Association lawsuit now?
You know what I don't really do it, to be honest with you. I mean, I know a lot of people do it, but I mean, I signed up for the lawsuit, but I haven't checked in. I mean, I know some dudes that are really bad, and you just almost like, I don't really feel those things yet. Maybe to some degree, but I put that up with age. I have friends I play with, we go out and they don't know where they park the car. They don't.
Wow. Is that before, that's before or after the drinking?
Yeah. Or they'll tell you, like, they have to remind you who the family pictures are on the wall. I mean, and these are guys 2-3 years older than me. But so, and it's in hindsight, it's probably, in hindsight, it was a blessing I got hurt my neck because, 3 more years, who would have known? And, I was best friends with Junior Seau. He was the best man at both of my weddings. He was my roommate at the Chargers. And that just went downhill quick. And I watched it. So it's like, no, I don't want any parts of that. And I don't want to take any money away from dudes that have that or going that way. So I don't really do it, no.
Because they think that his suicide was part of CTE, right?
Oh, it was definite. I mean, like I said, he came in the year after me, and we were roommates, best man, all that stuff together all the time. You could, and I got out at 7th year, but he stayed in for another 10, I want to say. Yeah. And you could see every year just a little more, but nobody knew what CTE was. So I'd be like, oh man, fuck this dude. He's being a dick, or he won't call you back, or he doesn't show up somewhere, and then you feel guilty in hindsight because then you see what it is. But yeah, I mean, people that played, like, that dude was probably, 250, 6'4", 250, could run. He was like Ironhead. You know, Ironhead would just sit out and not do anything and then outbench Bill Fralick. Yeah. And outrun the receivers. And you're like, what's that? With a beer belly? And you're like, what is this dude? That's how Junior was, but with a work ethic like you've never seen. So he was, and that's why he played, 20 years and he's 15-time All-Pro. But that also came with a lot of punishment at that velocity and that size. And he went downhill quick. I mean, within 2-3 years, I mean, of done playing, I mean, he was bad. Yeah. Wow. So we'll just keep his family in prayer, man. And like you said, thank God you got out when you did. Yeah, in hindsight, it worked. And you know what? And I don't even know if that would have been different. I was never a big hitter. I mean, it wasn't. I never was a big hitter. But the problem was, dude, Ironhead, Christian Okoye, I mean, Herschel Walker, they come through the holes big hitters, so you have to hit them. Yeah. You don't want to, but you have to. Otherwise, Burt, so you're gonna get your bell rung. Remember, that's what they call it, your bell rung. It wasn't concussion, it was bell rung. But you also get posterized too. You let them run over you. They're like, Burt, you be on ESPN. Yeah, thankfully, that's the other part. Man, that's the word. I tell that to dudes all the time now. I'm like, man, I didn't know it was going to be YouTube 20, 30 years later. I got to pull up. Like, we played Miami, and Alonzo Highsmith just probably the worst I got clocked in college. And I'm like, man, I got clowned in film so bad that, we had the black and white that shit burned. Yeah. They retaped it, played it again, burned it again, snapped it, kept playing it. And I'm like, all right, well, cool. I ain't never got to see this again. 20 years later, I got to pull that shit up on YouTube now. You get clowned all over again. So you go into retirement, right? Mm-hmm. And you retire, you said, as a 49er or a San Diego Charger? Well, Well, that was the other weird part. I don't really know who I retired as because it was training camp where I got hurt with the 49ers. Then I just sat out for about 3 months. Then the Chargers called me up and wanted to re-sign me.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So I went in there. And I went in on like a Monday, and the doctor was out of town till Tuesday. But with NFL transactions, you have to sign somebody by 5 on Monday or something at the time. So they signed me.
Yeah.
So they had to pay me for the week.
Okay.
The doctor comes the next day, failed me on the physical, and that was it. He's like, dude can't play.
He said, yippee,
so
I got paid for the week,
physical,
though.
obviously,
Yeah.
And but I still got paid for the week. So I don't even know who I retired with. I guess the last team I signed was Chargers.
Okay. And so in the process of you retiring, what are you thinking about? What am I going to do? Right. So what did you decide to do?
What did I do when I retired? You know what? I really didn't. It was weird. It was that time where remember when the .com started in the stock market.
Yeah.
And you could just put like $10 on anything.
Yeah.
You could just like throw a dart, and it was up to $200 the next day.
Yeah.
So I did that, and got lucky with that for a few years, and then I had an antique store. And then I had kids, so I decided to stay home with my kids.
Well, let's slow down, Burt. Let's slow down. So when you did the .com thing, you were an investor. What were you trying to do at that time? You were an investor?
Oh no, it's just the day trading shit that everybody does.
Oh, okay.
Like fucking your dog could have like done it, and made money doing .com.
Okay. So, but
no skill in it or anything, but yeah.
But I heard that you did something, so it was sounding something entrepreneurially. So I want to hear about that first before we move on with the kids. So you said you opened up an antique store?
Yeah, I'd done antiques. I mean, I grew up in Philly and was always it's a weird hobby, but I was always interested since probably middle school. So I had like an art gallery antique store here in San Diego for a while.
Okay.
But that's another thing. So the recession comes, and it kind of timed, recession with real estate goes back to, I mean, they go hand in hand. If real estate's booming, people are buying, it's cool. But so I was married at the time, and that's when I had my first son. So at that point, I was just like, I'm going to stay home for like 5-6 years till they go. I was just going to be a stay-at-home dad till they started school. So I probably, both of them, they're 2 years apart. So 5 for the first one, then 2 more till the other one got in kindergarten.
Okay.
And then during that time, I went back and finished my degree.
Okay.
Then got a master's, and then got into teaching after that.
Okay, so you became a teacher. Wow.
I became a teacher, and then not for long though, probably for about a semester, and then somebody recruited me there was like kids, gang kids, kids out of the system.
Yeah.
At-risk kids. It was a federal grant called Youth Build. You probably have one in Newark. Oh, why do you say Newark?
Trenton, but
Trenton.
Yeah, but so here's the thing, and I've done some work with Youth Build both in Trenton, Philadelphia, and in Newark. Yes. Yes, so I'm familiar with Youth Build. Yes.
So I was the program director of Youth Build for 10 years probably.
Get out of here, Burt! Wow.
Yeah, that's what I got, and I actually got. It's funny because you had Carnell Smith on, who was the DN on the other side of me.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was starting, Youth Build had a separate mentoring program that you could apply for, grant. And I didn't tell him. I was like, Carney, send me your. I want to check out your thesis on mentoring for your doctorate. But I just plagiarized that whole shit and made that my program. so I hope he don't listen.
I'm gonna tell him he's.
But that was the structure for our Youth Build mentoring program. So so I did that for probably 10. I did Youth Build for 10 years and didn't stop Youth Build. I stopped Youth Build because of COVID.
Okay.
And
so you just stopped recently.
Yeah, and then it wasn't. I'm actually probably gonna go back next month because I kind of missed it. But California was weird. I mean, we shut down to the point where you couldn't do anything. Youth Build. I mean, you know, you don't have academics, so you couldn't go into the shop and build or go to sites. So you couldn't do anything.
Well, let's slow down because I'm feeling something. I'm feeling some collaborative spirit now. So you think that once everything is lifted, you're going to go back into Youth Build, right?
I mean, the program that I was at, they're still running. Okay. They just started, believe it or not, with Cal. They just started back up about a month ago.
Yeah. I want you to consider me because so you know that this podcast is sponsored by Ed Miller, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, I'm doing an entrepreneurial training program in Perth Amboy. So our program is called Minding Our Business. We teach folks how to start and run their own business. And so Ed saw what I was doing on Facebook, right? He called me. I met him at his office in New Brunswick. He saw the program in Perth Amboy, which is not too far from where his offices were, and some of his employees worked in Perth Amboy. So he thought this would be a wonderful way to, show his love of support. So he sponsored the program in Perth Amboy. And when the Perth Amboy program died out, he says, Kevin, I'm still interested. What else do you have? I said, well, we do the exact same program. We do it in Trenton. So he came to Trenton and we started sponsoring the program down here in Trenton. And then when COVID hit, we had to pivot. And this is how the podcast was born out of. So when you hear the final cut on this, you're going to hear the commercial by Pro Tapes. And so Ed and I, we have been linked together like the past 7 years, man. That's my man. So Ed,
I got some good Ed Miller stories from Ted. You want to hear them?
Well, I don't know. He's our sponsor. So, so I'm thinking, man. And so what I do, so the podcast is where we talk to, and we work with, or interview, entrepreneurs at different phases in their life. So I would love to collaborate with you. I know Ed would be excited to know that you're doing that, and this could be a possibility of some synergy, man. Yeah, because
absolutely.
Because I've been doing the entrepreneurial training for the past 25 years. Got the curriculum and everything, man. Yeah. All right. Now,
I just feel like I did with Cornell.
Yeah. But see, I wrote my own curriculum, so I don't mind. I'll sell it to you, bro. So let's hear some Ed Miller stories.
Which one, man? Which one?
Matter of fact, I'm gonna.
I wouldn't even know where to begin with Ed Miller stories. You know what the best Ed Miller story was? All right. So I want to say it was probably my junior year, his senior.
Yes.
Because Ed had the knee and everything else.
Yes.
And Ed was probably, at my time, was the baddest dude at Pitt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely, man.
Just straight up scared.
Yes.
So I had, it was Pitt in the 80s. I'd gone through, for some reason, everybody wanted to fight me, every weekend at the bar. So I've been undefeated. And then we started this little boxing club.
Okay.
And I was knocking everybody out of the team, and then Ed just wanted to fight me, and I'm like, damn. So this is how bad Ed is. I was avoiding that shit like the plague.
Yes.
He gonna show up like some old school shit at my front door with the gloves and shit. And there was probably 10 people there, and at that point I couldn't get out of it. I'm like, damn it.
Wow.
But
now
he says he won a split decision, but Ed's cheap as hell too. On top of that, he hit me on the break about 46 times.
Now I recall, was it you or him? Someone had alligators in their room. Was that you?
Oh, that's another Ed Miller story. That was me.
Yeah.
But Ed came in from a night of drinking.
Yeah.
And decided he wanted to piss in my alligator tank, and my alligator was dead the next day. That's just fun. Ed Miller.
That's my man. And matter of fact, I think in the next couple of weeks, him and I are supposed to gather to talk about the next steps of the podcast. So we're going to make sure he listens to this one, man. But so let's go back to you being an entrepreneur, you working with at-risk kids. What would be a touching point that you would share, that you would motivate? How would you motivate them, I guess?
As far as youth building kids, you have to have that in your blood. It's nothing you can really teach. You have to want to do that and have a desire for it to connect with the kids.
Got you.
My biggest problem in youth build is part of, youth build, you always collaborate with a school district or somebody else. And, we're a nonprofit, but, curriculum, as far as the teaching part, the part that was always frustrating me at youth build was we'd always have to go through the district, and then we had to go through the teachers union, which was always, they place somebody. So if I say I want this dude to connect with him, and he might have had some criminal activity, or a young dude coming out with no criminal activity, but Becky from Iowa has been in union 10, 15 years, and she's the next one up. I get placed with her, and I could never get around that.
Gotcha.
And I think that was the hardest part for me at youth build, because everybody on our side we could hire. We could vet them and hire.
Yes.
There's background checks, but there's nothing you really can't get through if you don't want to get through. But on the school side, and they run half the day pretty much,
Gotcha.
You know, I mean, we run the vocational sports services and everything else, job placement, the mentoring, but they still have that morning session with the kids, and that's a big impact. And I think a lot of kids get alienated by that. I mean, we were lucky enough to end up with a really good teacher for it, but I see a lot of them fail just because of the educational part. They make no exception to it's who has more time in the union, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter who's the personality and who can connect and who wants it. It's who's next man up in the union who has, what is it, seniority.
Yeah. Now what I found, now that might be for you there, but over here it's always been some of the youth bills have been independent. So they could hire, so their challenge was, could they raise enough money to support the type of program that they wanted to create? And that's where a lot of the youth bills fell into problems. And so we found that a lot of the youth bills would align themselves with either a larger not-for-profit or align themselves with a community college.
Yeah.
So you could
and you know, in hindsight, it would have been better for us to community college. But we were fortunate. I mean, we're 15 years of over and over, you know, continually getting, you know, your outcomes have to be a certain point. There's always competition.
Absolutely.
But, you know, outcomes are always pretty good, but we were fortunate that most of the other people that were given it were really bad at it. Because, I mean, if you don't hire the right people in youth field, you're dead in the water. I mean, you know how that goes.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't matter what you do or what kids you get. It's just it's a whole different deal unless you experience it.
Now, in terms of your fundraising, Burt, did you ever use your NFL status to help raise funds for Youth Build?
No, like I said, we were. I mean, Youth Build was. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I mean, then it was. You know, you went for 2-year cycles, and I think you got like $1.2 million for the 2 years. So the school didn't really take that. I mean, the school. And that's probably why we did it. We didn't have to fundraise, so we partnered with the district.
Okay.
They would provide, you know, the teacher. They get their ADA, their day covered.
Yes.
And then we get to keep all the money as a nonprofit, so we don't have to fundraise.
Wow. But have you ever thought about using your celebrity NFL status to take you to the next level, man? Did you go to the Super Bowl? I mean, stuff like that, man.
No, I don't go to anything football related, man. I don't. You know, I do. I mean, I am the executive director of another nonprofit.
Yes.
Aside from Youth Build, it's Adaptive Sports. It's basically sports programs for people in wheelchairs.
Okay.
So we do have to fundraise. We absolutely have to fundraise. I mean, we get grants, but nothing like Youth Build where it just covers the whole program cost. But that one I do have to fundraise and do some things for. But Youth Build never. No.
Well, what I've got to do, man, I've got to do some sessions on Zoom, and I've got to connect you with remember Reggie Truck Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to him all the time, man. He's come on the podcast for me, and then Al Dixon, who's a little older.
I've been in the name though.
Yeah, Al Dixon he retired. He did I think 2 years or a year with the Eagles, but he retired as a 49er. He's out in Arizona. And matter of fact, I talk to these guys probably once or twice a week. And one of the things that we're trying to do, because Al and I used to do this, we used to do motivational speaking. We used to go around to a lot of the schools, as well as Reggie Truck Brown. We would go to the different schools and speak to the kids about, you know, entrepreneurship, motivation, and staying, you know, I guess mentally strong, right? So I would love to get you in that loop, because that's another piece of the program that we're trying to bring back, man. Yeah, my man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's my next question though. I read somewhere where you got an Emmy. Burt Grossman got an Emmy for doing what?
I got 2 Emmys actually.
Wait, you got so you're a movie star, superstar. What are you now?
No, man. Please. Those are from the 90s, man. That was when I was in Philadelphia.
Okay.
They just did, it wasn't Emmys like you see on TV. It wasn't like I beat out Cheers.
But you got an Emmy, though.
Or anything like that back in the 90s.
But you have an Emmy. We have 2, right? You have 2. Okay, thank you very much, right? You have 2.
I got it in Philly. When I was in Philly, I actually did a sports show when the year I was there, and I got 2 Emmys for that. Best sports show, and believe it or not, I don't know how, all in Philly and that little, you know, Delaware and tri-state area, I got best sports reporter.
That's all. Congrats. That's awesome, man. That's big time, man. Because that's a major market. Philadelphia's a major market. That's big time, man. Wow.
Yeah, which explains why they probably got rid of me, because I did more TV than football.
so
that's why they didn't invite me back.
Yeah. So when did you start your podcast interviewing in San Diego? How long have you done that, man?
So that podcast it's weird. So I do I have a Friday night sports show here.
Yeah. Okay.
And we run it. It's during high school football, and it's almost like Sports Center. It's a weird thing only in San Diego.
Okay. Big
production at a station. So we do that all through high school football season, and then probably I'd say from August all the way up to January, and then or even during that we have Good Morning San Diego, which is a TV show here.
Yes.
I do the weekend sports wrap for them on Monday morning. So it's a podcast, but it's run through that station. So it's not really mine.
Gotcha.
I'm like an employee, and they have a podcast basically to do it. And yeah, I mean, I do it once a week, and we do it for about 20, 30 minutes, but it's not, you know what the weirdest thing I see with podcasts, man? I mean, for me,
yes.
You ever get like, I don't know if you look at your views and your counts, but we've had guests on, like some major guests on there, right?
Okay.
And you're like, oh, they're going to blow it up. Like this past week, we had Eric Weddle on there, fresh off the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or Louis Riddick we've had on there. We have Sarah Gusa.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had Marshall Fall. I mean, Brian Young, Hall of Fame dudes that just come off.
Yeah.
They don't get like a tenth of the hit. You always think, oh, they're going to blow it up. They don't get like a tenth of the hit of like a high school coach in town that's popular.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of all the kids watching, the parents, and it's just local podcasts, man. You better have local on there.
Yeah. So this is not a local podcast, man. I've got folks from local, regional, national, international, so we can go anywhere, man. The entrepreneur.
Yeah, so you're back. You can do almost any subject you want to ask the questions. We're real tight, specific on our subject, or else we get nothing.
Okay, well, so me, it's the entrepreneur enclave. I talk. I have a large range in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share with the audience their experience. I want to hear their experience. So I'm hearing your experience. And so somewhere in your experience, there is an entrepreneur that can say, you know what, I've got to be tougher, or Burt did this, or so-and-so did this. And this is how we're growing exponentially, man.
Yeah. And again, you have the views to it. So the podcast I do, I'm really an employee of the station that puts it out. So I don't even.
Got you. Burt, I'm gonna tell you something, man. I am listening to you talk, man. And I mean, I'll be 57. You're what, 55, 56, right? And
I'll be 55 in April.
Okay, so I hear the maturity in your voice, man. That's all right. I hear the commitment in your voice. So I thank you for your commitment. I thank you for all the work that you've done, just on and off the field, man. So just thank you, man. I thank you.
Thank you, Kev.
Yeah, that's all right. Because I said, Burt and I are having the hardest time connecting. I hope we're not avoiding each other.
No, you know what triggered me again when I saw that. When somebody clowns you in that picture on Facebook with Randy Dixon and you had them little calves up there. And you had the pants pulled up like you were showing them like you were proud too.
Yeah. Well, I was proud. I was hanging out with my man, Big Randy.
Dude, I still do that. I don't know why. It doesn't matter how old we are. It's like you're stuck in the 80s. My sweatpants are always up like that. My son's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, man. Now, so how many kids do you have now, Burt?
2 boys.
Okay. Now, do they know anything about your football career?
Nah.
What?
Yeah, they watch YouTube. Yeah, they just clown me on what. Gotcha. You know how the kids clown you with the black and white back then? Yeah. You guys have color film.
Yeah.
And the sad part was I had to say, no, we didn't have color film.
Wow.
They don't even know what a VCR is, let alone the 8mm, wind up ones we had. I don't even, if I said VCR, I get clowned. I don't even want to bring up the 8mm we used to watch.
Wow. So let me get this straight, Burt. At the end of the day, man, what is the one thing you do that gives you the most passion besides being a father?
I get asked that a lot.
Yes.
No, and you know what's weird? I probably could have asked that before COVID. COVID, like, I don't know what it's like in Jersey, but in California, it just like killed the morale here. I mean, I'm having trouble still getting into my regular schedule, or it's almost like it puts everybody in this depression. They don't want to leave the house, or or you leave for an hour or two and you think you did something where it used to be 9-10 hours, and you're like, that was normal.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I got struggled to like go out and do something for 3 hours. So I could have answered that question real easily, 2.5 years ago, but I think that's the fact people don't get, man. It's just like, I can't even answer it anymore. I mean, to the point that I mean, maybe another 6 months, or hopefully 2 months or 3 months, you get back to everything's normal, and you get back to actually working and interacting with people and teamwork and helping kids, or because you get no energy from a Zoom call. I mean, you kind of have to be there. When you get back in that again, I mean, I'm sure I could answer that, but that's a hard answer right now.
And surprisingly for me, I've been more productive through podcasting and the Zooming, because now I can have more meetings than just driving to and from one meeting, where I can have 5 meetings in one day. I've
and that's the weird part. Yeah. And you probably have a lot of people on there. That's the weird part. Is I need like the energy of being in the room. I can't. I get on a Zoom and it's within seconds. I'm looking at my phone, or I'm looking at your picture with your calves on Facebook during the Zoom call. I mean, I need to have like the connection energy.
Yeah. No, I get you. I need that too. So, but for me, if I did that like every other day, that would be a nice diet for me, where I feel like I'm being like super productive, right? But you're right. I still need to have that ability, because I'm high touch. I still need to have that ability to touch and to really see and feel your energy. So I agree. But for now,
and I mean, this might sound like a joke, but it's not a joke. It's like, I mean, 2 years ago, your whole thing, I mean, I remember every day on Facebook, your stock game.
Yeah.
Take a little thing like that.
Yeah.
If you're sitting home all day, sitting at your Zoom, there ain't no more sock game.
Ain't no more sock game, right?
I mean, the little things like that you lose that you don't realize that, I mean, it's something that you like.
Yeah.
But you lose it, and we don't even realize we lost it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to push you one more time, Burt. What's your legacy then? What's your legacy? What do you want to be remembered for? Now, this ain't got nothing to do with the pandemic or COVID.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right.
Think
on this
hard questions, man. I'm used to answering just football questions.
I know.
What did Dr. Carnell Smith say?
I forgot what.
All right. Must not have been that impactful.
His is deep, man. I forgot what he said, but it was good though, man. It was good. Yeah.
Oh, now you're gonna put me in the spot.
Yeah. He went back to his high school, and he became the principal. Right?
Yeah, Scott High at Toledo, right?
And I'm probably gonna mess this up, but for 20 years he's been running a free football clinic at his high school.
Yeah, the Dr. Carnell Smith Clinic. Yeah.
So Burt, you've got a lot of catching up to do, right? What are you doing at your high school?
That's funny, because that's a good question. I mean, I said, look, when right when I started youth build, I would split time between an inner city school here, and youth build, and and you're right, it is a little more rewarding. I mean, I ended up with kids, and they lived in my house for 2 years, at different times.
Yes.
African American kids. I was going to say, I won't say the wrong word to you, but I mean, it's, again, and this doesn't go back to COVID or Zoom, but you don't get those opportunities to connect with kids. You don't get to see on Zoom how they're struggling or in their space.
No.
I mean, you can look at a Zoom thing, but you can't. Can't see them every day, or they need money for lunch, or you see their shoes are jacked up, and we got football practice. You don't see any of that in Zoom.
Okay, let's get real touchy. Let's get real touchy real quick, Burt. Why did you feel the need to temporarily house these two African American young men?
The first one, I got to the school, and the first one was a kid from New York.
Yes.
And this school was one of those schools that was like a basketball recruiting school. So
gotcha.
This kid got recruited out here, housing set up and everything to play basketball. It was a basketball. He gets in a fight with the coach. Basketball coach was a real dick at the time.
Yeah.
He gets in a fight with the basketball coach his senior year.
Wow.
And he has never played football. This kid never played football, nothing. He gets in a fight with the coach his senior year. The coach kicks him off the team. In turn, he loses his, stay-at-home housing.
Yes.
So he's basically homeless.
Wow.
So he comes up to me, and I didn't know him that well then. He wanted to play football.
Okay.
So we didn't have a place to stay. So I was like, all right, well, you come. He went out for football. This kid never played football in his life, right?
Okay.
He played like he had to sit out a little bit because he was a senior and eligibility rules, even though he was at the school.
Yes.
So he ended up playing 7 games for me. And I was a football coach then at that high school.
Okay.
So he stayed with me till probably the spring, and then he ended up getting a full ride scholarship for football to Arizona, playing 7 games the senior year. That was it.
Wow. So he must have been a
University
beast.
of Arizona.
He must have been.
So
a
he
beast
went
then.
on. He left, and he's actually a school teacher now in Arizona.
Okay.
Then the following year, we're starting camp again, and this fat dopey kid comes in, and he got like, when we're doing spring football.
Yeah.
He got some old loafers.
Yeah.
Goofy kid, and I was like, hey, go do one-on-ones. We had our starting offense line there. This kid's an 8th grader.
Yes.
Wearing loafers. He went down the entire offense line and beat every single one of them one-on-one pass rush.
Wow.
Then I started talking to him. I got him some shoes.
Okay.
But then, you come to find out, like, he lives with his grandma in, like, a 2-bedroom, and, like, 10 other people are there, and he lives on the floor in the kitchen, and he does his homework.
Wow.
And I actually became real close with him. He actually ended up living with me probably 3 years.
Okay.
He lived with me actually 3 or 4. He didn't really move in until, I want to say, the end of his sophomore year. So it was like junior, senior year. And then because of grades and everything else, he stayed with me while he went to junior college. You guys don't even really have junior colleges back there, but we don't have like Division III schools out here, like, say Slippery Rock or, Kutztown or, all those little schools that play football back there.
Yes.
We don't have that out here. We don't have NAI Division II or III out here in football.
Okay.
We just have junior colleges, 2-year, and then they can go on to those other places they want. So he spent a year then in junior college. So now he plays arena football. But yeah, those two. So, but you miss that. I mean, once you get out of seeing kids every day, you miss. Yeah. You don't see. I mean, the kids are still there, but you don't see the opportunity, or you don't see the need. Through a phone call or through Zoom. I mean, it's me taking him home at practice and seeing what's going on. After practice, or him not showing up, but I got to go to his house to make sure he comes to school. Yeah. And then you see what the living conditions are, and I mean, you don't see any of that with Zoom, and that was all.
Burt, you are a good dude with a good heart, man. Thank you. Wow, you're not that bad, man. But listen, when you made that comment, you were going down the toilet with the quickness, bro. It's like, oh man. But yeah, so. And
again, you know what? I mean, this is the problem, man. I ain't the same person I was 30 years ago. Thank God. You're not. Any of us are not.
No one is, man. No one is.
I wouldn't want to be the person I was 30 years ago, but not for a day. But
apparently, I was pretty good though, so I wouldn't mind, right? Apparently, I was pretty good. So I'm told, right? Yeah. So now, let me. So, you're not off the hook yet, Burt. What's your legacy, though, man? What do you want to be remembered as? Because I've got to go back to tell Dr. Smith so he can, you guys can just keep it going, become very competitive now.
Yeah. Huh.
And he's also got a foundation too. I want you to know that.
He's killing me. He's killing me. Come on, Carney. Damn. I don't. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I mean, you want to touch people, and not just adults. I mean, I don't want to be Christianing, but it's like Jesus said. I don't want to sit with the people that need my help. Yeah. I mean, don't need my help. Yeah. I mean, if you're in a doctor's office, you want sick people. You don't want you want to help sick people. You don't want to help people that don't need your help. I mean, absolutely. With anything. So I think that would probably be it. I mean, I don't really care about money or football accolades or any of that BS. To be honest with you, I don't go to any Charger functions. I don't go to any football functions. I don't even open the emails. I don't do any of it. The helping, I would say helping people that need the help.
But Burt, I mean, is there a certain amount of appreciation you have for NFL football because what it allowed you to do and receive, or no?
I'd say the stepping. I mean, I'm turned off by professional football. I mean, I love college football. Don't get me wrong. I can watch college football all day. Professionals just turn into something that I'm not even familiar with. I mean, wow. And a lot of it. Look, I mean, the whole thing with the coaches getting hired in the Rooney Rule and everything else. I mean, that was all there when we loved football. There's just nobody took the veil off. You know what I mean? Got you. I mean, we all knew it, but I mean, again, this was 30 years ago. We didn't know it was segregated pit. Yeah. It was there. I mean, we didn't know there's not a single black coach or a black quarterback. I wonder why. It was still there, but we just thought it was normal, I guess.
Got you. Gotcha.
But it's been lifted off now. I mean, you're seeing dudes like Flores who are, by anybody's stretch, is a great coach, and they just do you dirty like that. It doesn't. You just see it. I mean, for what it is. I mean, even every year with Mike Tomlin, who's to me the best coach in the NFL, Belichick and Tomlin. I don't care what you say, but
I agree.
You're still here for his job every single year.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win the Super Bowl, we need to move on.
Yeah.
There's nobody else like that. I mean, so you wonder. I mean, they can say it no all they want. I mean, but it's the same thing in the NFL with women. I mean, you constantly see how, whether it's domestic violence or sexual harassment or anything else against women, and the NFL will just march out a woman lawyer to defend them and think that's okay, and it's not. Yeah. And every time, there's a racial issue, you can't march out Tony Dungy and say it's okay, because it's not.
Yeah.
And it's just this thing that just turns you off after a while.
Wow. My man, Burt, that's all right.
You should stay with my legacy. You should stay with the legacy question.
No, you're doing good, man. Burt for president. No, stop. All right, you're not off the hook yet, man. What is your legacy, brother? Come on, man. I mean, I
just told you, helping people in need. I'm going to put it there. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, there's really nothing else for me. I mean, I mean, what else are we going to say? We played football. We made a lot of money. I mean, that ain't a legacy.
No. I think what you said was fantastic. Okay, now I got.
Well, I could just say I'm too young now. You got to ask me. I got 20, 30 more years. I'm gonna build my legacy. I'll unveil it in 20 years.
I would have said, okay, that's acceptable. I would have said, okay, but Coach Carney's got a little bit more time on you. Now I stop messing with you.
Man, why have thorn in my side, Coach Carney?
So listen,
Cornell.
What now? Now I saw. I can't remember where. Was it arena football that you were doing? You were a head coach for arena football?
Yeah, we have a team here in San Diego.
Okay, now are you guys playing now? Or COVID?
I actually resigned from that. I resigned. We played the first year, which is our expansion. I got hired again. This is almost like the Chargers thing, a week before the season started.
Yeah.
So they started an expansion team. I didn't even know they had one. That's how crazy it was, like a week before the season.
Wow.
And the coach quit. I should have known the coach quit, like the head coach a week before. I should have known why.
Yeah.
So they offered me, they said, I'll just come in there and be like the figurehead, blah, blah. It was the biggest disaster I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
By week 3, I'd fired all the coaches.
Okay.
Cut about half the players, replaced them. I mean, it was just terrible.
Wow. Got
through that season, went to season 2, but had the whole off season, and we built a really good roster, rebranded, got a general manager. Really good. We went the first game. We went up to, we had playing they play in these weird towns like Bismarck, North Dakota.
Okay, yeah.
We beat them by 30, then COVID hit.
Okay. Wow.
So we missed that whole season. They shut the season down after week 1. Missed that whole season. Then year 2 of COVID, most of the teams came back except the California teams. They still weren't allowed to do indoor activities. So we missed 2 years in a row. And then after that, I was just like, I don't want to do this.
Wow.
I mean, after 2 years off, a new team you're trying to build, but they're back. I think they're playing. They start playing next month here. But again, I'm not.
You're not interested. Okay, gotcha.
Burt, no, that's just a weird clown show.
Yeah. Listen, man. Burt, man, I am having so much fun with you tonight. That's all right, man. This is all right.
Bringing up Dr. Carnell Smith.
Yeah. So, but what I am,
we came in together as freshmen.
Yes.
Him and I have been boys since freshman year. We're I think we're Tower A or B.
Okay.
Tower B, we had rooms right next to each other.
Okay.
Of course, couldn't room together because it was segregated.
No, stop that.
But his room was right next to mine, and we were. He was probably we were real close for the whole time, but he did his homework, and I did. You always tell the dude that did his school. 2 DNs, one did his homework, and one didn't. One went to class, and one didn't.
Yeah. But listen, man. Now, when's the last time you spoke to him?
We message every now and then.
Okay.
It's probably been a few months, but
all right.
But he's emotionally intelligent, so I'll send text messages, and then he'll try to call me, but I won't pick him up because I'm not emotionally intelligent. And then I'll just text him back the next day.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes you're drinking and smoking a cigar and you get in your heart space, and then I write him this long-ass text.
Yeah.
And then he'll try to call me, and then I won't pick it up. Oh, goodness. That's my legacy.
To tease the hell out of Dr. Smith for the rest of his life. Oh, man. Burt, listen, bro. Listen, when I speak to Ed, we're going to do a three-way call. We've got to somehow take this to the next level, man, because the work that you're doing, the work that I want to continue to do, and the work that Ed wants to sponsor, this is fantastic, man. This is it, man. This is it, right?
You know, it'd be cool. We should try to do.
Yes.
Me, you, and Ed should try to get to Dr. Smith's football camp this summer.
Wow.
I mean, you close. You in Ohio. I got to fly. You two could drive.
Well, you can drive too if you wanted to.
I could. That's true.
Yeah. You know what? Let's let me meet with Ed and let's talk about that. And I'll talk to. Maybe we do a conference call, the four of us.
I'd love to do that. I mean, every year we try. I try to get it done, but it never happens. But if I'm, committed, and we're doing it together. I'll do it.
And I can bring my podcasting equipment. Woo, that'd be awesome.
And your box of Padrones.
Hey, nothing like the coach.
Care about your equipment? Bring your Padrones.
I got you. And some tequila on the side, brother. I got you, Burt. I got you. Listen, man, you have been, I got a confession. I was nervous, man. I've done a lot of podcasting, but this was the first time I was nervous because I didn't know if you were going to be open. I didn't know if you were going to, what's the word? Again, not be open. I didn't know if you were going to be, I thought you were going to be defensive. But man, you've been fantastic, man. Thank you. Burt, I'm serious, man. I was nervous. I was like, okay, I'm gonna call Burt at 6:45, and he's gonna tell me he's not ready to again this time. Because the last time I had to do it because I had to do some things with my mother. I thought I was gonna call you, and you were not gonna be available. I said, okay, what do I do this time?
I won't bring it up, and you called me 4 minutes late, but that's all right.
But so I was like,
no, man, you ain't gotta be nervous.
No, because again, there was that sensitive piece that we had to get out of the way first, and I didn't know how you were going to respond to it, but you responded well, so we got through that, man, swimmingly. So thank you, man. Thank you.
No,
man.
That's on me. If I mess up, I'm gonna say it.
No, I appreciate that.
That's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's on me. I ain't gonna back out of it.
Okay.
All right, my man. Well, thank you.
Burt, this has been fantastic, man. Now listen. This is because we were so crappy with the interview. This might get the most trending. This might become the most trending one, right?
I hope I don't get in trouble this time.
Well, no, it's the podcast, man. We want open feelings, open thoughts, right?
Ed Miller owes me, what's his name? Owes me money on my alligators too. Tell him. Okay, alligator was expensive.
Well, as soon as he hears it, he goes say, he's got you. He's got you, right? Brother Burt, you have been fantastic, man. Thank you. Let's talk and text and stay connected, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kev.
Hey, listen. I still need what? Okay, I'll do it. I know what I meant to ask you. Listen, I know you do so much, but if someone wanted to keep in touch with you, how should they best reach out to you?
What you mean? You got my cell text?
No, I'm talking about for the general public, for the listening audience.
Oh, you want me to just put my email on there?
Yeah, tell me what's your email? What's your email, Burt?
It's BGROSSMAN at ASRASD.org.
Okay, great. Thank you, man.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.